Hey guys, how you doing? As you guys know, it's the start of the spring turkey season. And one of the most common questions that we've been getting here at Fletch Deep TV is, what kind of broadheads should I be shooting for the spring turkey season? Today I've got several examples, and we're going to go over the ins and outs of the different styles and designs that are out there and what might be best for your particular setup. I'm not going to be promoting any specific brand for any specific reason. I might talk about what I've got to display and the features of that particular head, but by no means is that the only answer to your particular problem. Today, just to kick things off, we're going to talk a little bit about low kinetic energy setups. Your youth and lady hunters out there who want to get out there in the field and try turkey hunting. Some things to consider when you're shooting, lower kinetic energy, lower draw weights, shorter draw lengths. Just some of the things to keep in mind when it comes to broadheads in general. The first thing that we're going to talk about is your standard fixed blade broadhead. Design, this particular one is a Montech CS. But the things that I want to highlight on this, if you take a good look right here and you take a look at the shallow blade angle on here, this will help promote penetration when it comes to game in general. Whereas with a steeper blade angle, when they step out, it turns to more of a chopping motion versus a slicing motion. With lower kinetic energy setups, I'll typically recommend something along the lines of this. Possibly you get into your NAP Thunderheads, your Slick Trick Viper Tricks. They'll all do a fantastic job for your lower kinetic energy setups. The one thing that you guys just want to make sure of, no matter what broadhead that you're shooting, especially with lower kinetic energy, is make sure these things are razor sharp before you head out to the field. You'd be surprised at what just a light draw weight bow can do for you. And if you guys have any questions, post them in the comments, come to our Facebook page, and we can answer them as they go. I'm going to set that arrow aside. Like I said, shallow blade angles for lower kinetic energies, lower draw weights. If you're in the mood to shoot fixed blades, but you have a little bit more kinetic energy to spare, say you're pulling 50 plus pounds and you want to shoot a fixed blade broadhead, you might start thinking about the broader broadheads out there. This, for example, is a Q80 Exodus broadhead. It has an 1.25 inch cutting diameter, and you notice the big difference between these two right away. You take a look at the angle of the blades. This one right here will not penetrate as well as this guy right here does, but it also gives you a substantially bigger cutting diameter. I don't know if you can see that on the video or not, but this is 1.16 inches, this is 1.25 inches. It's a lot bigger hole. There's a ton of them out there in this same category. I mean, you're looking at your Muzzy MX3s, your Q80 Exodus, Slick Tricks, Slick Trick Mags. There's a ton of good ones out there, and if you want to shoot a fixed blade broadhead that's over probably 1.1 inches, highly recommend pulling over 50 pounds, no matter what game species you're after. Turkeys, they're a lot tougher critter than you might think, and generally speaking, if you can get a little bit bigger cut into them, the better your odds of harvesting that bird. So pulling over 50 pounds and you want to shoot a fixed blade broadhead, look at something maybe 1.1 inches or bigger, and just make sure they fly well out of your bow. That's the one thing that a lot of people forget. They screw these things on, they go out and shoot, and they wonder why they don't hit where their field points do. Well, there's a little bit of tuning involved when you get into fixed blade broadheads that you don't have with mechanicals, but that's another video entirely. So if you're shooting a little bit lower draw weight, but still want to shoot a mechanical style head, this is just one. I don't have it on an arrow, but this is just a standard Grim Reaper 1 3/8 cut broadhead. This might be good for those bows that are, say, probably 55 pounds or less. Not crazy huge, but it gives you a little bit more leeway. If you consider the vitals on a turkey are just a little bit bigger than the size of an orange, the more cut that you have, the better chances you have of putting an arrow through the vitals there. Again, because of the shallower blade angle on this guy, lower kinetic energy setups, this would probably be okay for you guys. Just don't get anything too big and crazy. Alright, next guys, we're going to talk about the big mechanical style broadheads. This particular one that I got is an over-the-top style expandable, means that the blades open from the top and slide down. This particular one is an 1.5 inch cutting diameter. It's a phenomenal turkey broadhead for somebody who's shooting probably 60 pounds or less. Awesome option for turkeys. I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up in the video or not, but that's a full 1.5 inch cut. And when a turkey's vitals are about the size of an orange, any extra diameter that you guys get on there will help. Even if you make a marginal shot, will help you get into the good stuff on a turkey. There are pros and cons to shooting bigger broadheads. If you've got the energy to do it, by all means on a turkey, shoot the biggest broadhead that you can. That's just my opinion. Pass-throughs are not necessarily what you want on a turkey. You'll hear a lot of things from a lot of people telling you possibly otherwise, but in my opinion, and with the success that I've had, the biggest broadhead that you can shoot and ethically harvest the turkey is the one that I would use. Like I said, 1.5 inch is probably the max that I would be shooting at something under 60 pounds, but that's just my opinion. Now I'm going to show you guys the two options that, two different style options that I would personally choose for turkey hunting. My bow, I'm shooting right at 83 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So I've got a little bit of kinetic energy to spare. And what I've got here, this is an over-the-top style broadhead. This is from Grim Reaper. And if you take a look at this, this is an 1.75 inch cutting diameter. Odds are this particular head's not going to pass all the way through a turkey, and that's exactly what I want out of a turkey broadhead. It's going to deliver that full 83 foot-pounds to that 1.75 inch cut right to the vitals, hopefully. And generally that leads to very short track jobs. Hopefully the turkey is mortally wounded and can't fly away. Awesome option. I particularly like the over-the-head style because while it does drain a little bit of kinetic energy when you're shooting them at whitetails, that delivers all of that energy into a turkey. You're not worried about losing a few foot-pounds on the penetration side of things. You actually don't want that arrow to pass through. Another style, this is from NAP. This is their Kill Zone head. This will be similar to your Rage broadheads, any of the slip cam style mechanicals out there, your G5 Havocs, your T3s, Kill Zones. But where these are entering your turkey, and what separates it from this is this broadhead will actually have to start entering the bird before it starts opening. This one will open on contact, so as this starts to penetrate the turkey, your blades will push back and you'll have that full 2 inch cutting diameter. This style of broadhead is very popular with turkey hunters. You see a ton of guys shooting Rage broadheads, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This is a great design if you have the kinetic energy to do it. It's about knowing your equipment and knowing what you need to do to get into the vitals on a turkey. Alright guys, now let's talk a little bit about your Magnus bullheads, your Gobbler guillotines, your Muzzy MORE broadheads. I don't have one of those particular heads in to show you guys, but I can kind of explain them to you. We can probably add a picture to this video to show you what they look like. But the idea behind them, or you get your turkeys in close to you, and with these particular style heads, the blades stick straight out from the sides of them, and you aim at the base of the turkey's neck or head region, and when that broadhead impacts, of course, you can imagine what happens. There are some things to consider when you're trying something that big. You do have to run a little bit longer arrow setup than you would. You need to get that arrow out past the front of your riser, out past the front of your sight housing, and to do that typically you need to shoot at least one, possibly two spines stiffer than what you're used to shooting to get that arrow to fly how you want it to. Another thing to consider also is your practicing. Shooting a different arrow than you normally hunt with, you definitely need to practice with them. So what I would recommend to you guys, and things that I've had success with in the past when I practiced with them, what I'll do is I'll hang up an old pillow. Really doesn't matter, the older the better, the more compacted the pillow is, probably the better. Hang it up, hang something like a banana in front of it, and put a dot behind that banana. The pillow will stop the broadhead from over penetrating. You don't want to shoot them into your regular targets because it'll break the blades off, it'll bend them, it'll dull them. So shooting them into a pillow will keep them nice and sharp, so if you needed to still hunt with that particular head, you absolutely can. Like I said, you definitely need to check your bow, make sure the arrows are hitting where you want them to with those, because they will not fly like your field points do. If anybody's got any questions about the style of heads to be shooting, just send us a message here on the page. If you want to, you're welcome to post it to this video. And thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate it.